You know when a theory sounds so ridiculous that you laugh out loud, and then someone explains it with just enough fake evidence that you pause and go, wait, what if it's true? That's the Darth Jar Jar theory. The one where the most annoying creature in Star Wars is secretly the evil genius behind the entire Clone Wars, and not just annoying on purpose, but full-on Sith evil, strategic with backflips, and force persuasion and everything. At first glance, it feels like a joke that got out of hand. Like someone dared the internet to justify why Jar Jar's clumsiness was actually a cover for dark side mastery. And Reddit said, challenge accepted. Suddenly every stumble is a feint. Every wide-eyed stare is mind control. And somehow the Gungan who got pooped on by a space camel is now more dangerous than Count Dooku. But here's the thing. If that had actually happened, if George Lucas had leaned into that madness and given Jar Jar the red eyes and spooky theme music, we wouldn't be sitting here debating his redemption arc. We'd be dunking on the prequels for collapsing into a Saturday morning cartoon with a twist ending no one asked for. It would have been a plot nuke that flattened everything else in the story. There's a reason Palpatine worked. He was quiet, subtle, terrifying in a slow burn kind of way. You didn't see it coming unless you were paying attention. But Jar Jar would have been a spotlight hog, a twist that screamed, look at me. And suddenly all the tragedy, all the loss, all the weight of Anakin's fall would have been overshadowed by a Gungan doing force flips. We can laugh about it now because it didn't happen. Because George didn't throw the franchise off a cliff chasing some edgy twist. He let the clown stay a clown. And somehow that made the story stronger. It gave us a character who was flawed, foolish, and weirdly vital without ever being central. Which is honestly kind of brilliant when you think about it. In this video, we're digging into why Darth Jar Jar would have ruined everything. How a joke theory nearly became a canon nightmare. And why George Lucas dodging that bullet might be one of the most underrated choices in Star Wars history. Get ready for fake Sith lore, real emotional stakes, and a breakdown of why sometimes the best twist is no twist at all. Let's be honest, the first time you heard the Darth Jar Jar theory, you paused, just long enough to think, wait, could that actually work? Could this floppy-eared buffoon really be the puppet master behind the fall of the Republic? The idea is kind of brilliant in a trollish, late-night tread-it-rabbit hole sort of way. Like a Scooby-Doo twist where the annoying sidekick rips off the mask, and suddenly it's Palpatine 2.0 with a Gungan accent. The theory itself is a bizarre cocktail of circumstantial evidence, weird choreography, a few well-timed glances, and a whole lot of fan desperation to make Jar Jar feel useful. He's always in the right place at the wrong time. He gives Palpatine emergency powers. He survives every battle without a scratch. And if you squint hard enough and ignore basic storytelling logic, yeah, he looks suspicious. And let's be clear, we all love a good fan theory. Darth Plagueis being Anakin's real father, Mace Windu surviving that fall, Snoke being a clone of Windu, and Plagueis fused together with a side of pineapple pizza. The weirder it gets, the more people dig in. And Darth Jar Jar hit that sweet spot between ridiculous and oddly plausible. It's not hard to see why it caught fire. Star Wars is full of surprises. Palpatine was a mild-mannered senator before he revealed himself as the galaxy's most powerful Sith. So the idea that a silly alien with cartoon energy could be hiding some ancient darkness, well, it feels kind of on brand for a galaxy where sand is a character flaw. But the question is, just because you can make a theory work, should you? And in this case, if George had actually pulled the trigger, Star Wars might have imploded under the weight of its own meme. Let's not sugarcoat it. If George Lucas made Jar Jar a Sith Lord, it would have turned the entire prequel trilogy into a circus act, not a tragedy. Imagine sitting in the theater, emotionally bracing for Order 66, and suddenly Jar Jar shows up hissing and spinning like a possessed Looney Tune. It would have undone every ounce of tension the story built up over 3 films. The prequels already had a hard enough time being taken seriously. Between trade disputes, midichlorians, and a teenage Anakin flirting like a malfunctioning protocol droid. The last thing it needed was to turn its most ridiculed character into the secret architect of galactic doom. That's not edgy. That's chaotic energy for the sake of chaos. What hurts the most about this theory is that it tries to fix something that was never broken in the first place. Jar Jar wasn't supposed to be important. He was comic relief, a distraction, the galaxy's clumsy bystander who gets caught in the gears of a much bigger machine. And honestly, there's something tragic about that on its own. He didn't need to be a Sith to matter. He already played a key role in the rise of Palpatine, not through genius, but through manipulation. That's the real sadness. Palpatine didn't need a partner in evil. He needed a pawn. Someone naive enough to believe they were doing the right thing while being used as a weapon against their own people. You look at Jar Jar in Attack of the Clones, and it's clear he's out of his depth. He's not scheming, he's not sinister. He's scared, desperate to be useful in a room full of people who barely respect him. And when he gives that speech, handing emergency powers to Palpatine, it doesn't feel like a twist. It feels like a slow-motion car crash, painful, obvious, and unpreventable. Making him a Sith would have erased all of that nuance. It would have robbed the story of its quietest tragedy, that sometimes evil wins. Not through monsters, but through well-meaning fools who don't ask the right questions. Jar Jar was that fool, and his story is already heartbreaking if you're willing to look past the slapstick. So no, he didn't need a red lightsaber, or a deep voice, or some epic betrayal reveal. He just needed to be exactly what he was, a reminder that history is full of people who meant well, and still helped bring down the world. What's kind of amazing is that George Lucas actually held the line on this one. He had every opportunity to throw in some insane twist just to get people talking, and he didn't. He stayed focused on the real villains, and let Jar Jar remain what he was always meant to be, a tragic comic character with a small but devastating impact. Lucas understood something a lot of people forget, which is that not every piece on the board has to be a queen. Sometimes the pawns matter precisely because they're not in control, because they stumble, they fall, and they take the whole game with them. That's not bad storytelling. That's realism in a galaxy far, far away. And the prequels already had a perfect Sith trajectory. Palpatine's slow rise, Dooku's ideological betrayal, Anakin's tortured descent into Darth Vader. You didn't need another secret villain in the mix, especially not one wearing clown shoes and yelling "Excuse me" while activating his evil plan. And you know what? That choice opened the door for something even better. Redemption through storytelling. Over time, fans started reevaluating Jar Jar not as a joke, but as a cautionary tale. The guy who meant well, failed big, and still tried to keep going. That's not a Sith, that's a survivor. Even the Clone Wars gave him moments of real competence. He saved lives, went on missions, and proved that even the galaxy's most mocked character could have value. It wasn't redemption through plot armor, it was redemption through effort, and that's so much more meaningful. By keeping him out of the Sith spotlight, Lucas left space for other characters to shine. Ahsoka, Rex, Bail Organa. People who actually carried the weight of resistance and rebellion without stealing focus from the bigger picture. That's how you build a world, not by overloading it with cheap twists, but by trusting your characters to grow over time. And in a weird way, Jar Jar's arc becomes hopeful, because if even he could come back from that kind of embarrassment, then maybe the galaxy isn't so hopeless after all. Maybe not every mistake has to end in exile, or a dramatic heel turn. Maybe sometimes, you just keep trying anyway. So yeah, no Sith eyes, no sinister theme music. Just a Gungan who learned the hard way that the road to disaster is paved with good intentions, and the only way forward is through. At the end of the day, the Darth Jar Jar theory isn't dangerous because it's edgy, it's dangerous because it misses the point. Star Wars isn't about shock, it's about consequence. It's not about who can pull off the biggest twist, it's about who pays the price when they do. Jar Jar's story, left untouched, is already a tragedy. He was manipulated, mocked, and ultimately blamed for a war he never meant to start. That's a heavier fate than any Sith reveal could offer, because it's real, it's subtle, it lingers. Making him a Sith would have turned a painfully human moment into a cartoon. It would have said, no, people don't make mistakes, they secretly planned them all along. But the truth is way more compelling, because sometimes, the fall of a galaxy begins with a clumsy hand and a well-meaning vote, and that's what makes Star Wars work. Not just the lightsabers, or the battles, but the quiet moments, the failures, the flawed characters who shape the fate of billions without ever realizing it. That's where the real drama lives. Not in secret identities, but in the consequences of choice. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy my videos, please consider looking at my pinned comment and checking out the links for my Amazon storefront. It contains my favorite Legos, my gear in which I make videos, and comics that I read on a daily basis. I update it constantly, so please, take a moment and click on the link. On top of that, check out my second channel, Critical Analysis Hub Plus, and my third channel, Critical Analysis Hub XP. Just one click would go on a long way in supporting my channels and future in YouTube.